All right, so let's take a look at what the end user experience is like when you're applying data classification labels and retention policies using the same Purview technology. So the first thing we've got up here is an HR meeting for internal investigations. And if we open that up, we'll see that it's just like a normal Word document, nothing special about it. But now, let's say we wanted to put a retention policy on this. I can go up to my sensitivity label button here at the top, upper right-hand corner, and I can look at data retention, and I can apply a 5, a 10, or a 15-year retention policy to this document. Or I can do it by a department, or I can do it by sensitive data type if I wanted to. And really, these labels can say anything you want them to say. And no matter what it says, we can apply a different retention policy to that label. So from the end user's perspective, will they need to know how long to hold on to things, or do they need to know like the categories that they hold on to things? So I could either say, hey, this is going to be retained for 10 years. And now that I've got that label on here, I can see it's retained for 10 years. Or I can say, you know what, this is HR data. And because it's HR data, we know on the back end, we're going to hold it for 10 years. So there's different ways you can kind of chop that up based on how your end users want it, or if you want to do it by department or something of that nature. It also helps a lot out when it comes to like e-discovery and content searches as well. So let's say we're going to throw in here and we're going to throw a 10-year retention policy on it. And that's all you do right there. You literally just click sensitivity button, retention, 10 years, and now it's on there. So that's applying a 10-year retention label to an HR document for internal investigations. But then let's say we've got federal income tax filing numbers that are in Excel. And let's give it some numbers just because you can't really retain a blank document. And now, if we wanted to, let's move that out of the way, click the Save button. We can collect that sensitivity label and we can say, you know what, this is a financial document. So I'm going to tag it financial. And now you'll see that this is here and it's saved as financial. And again, we're holding on to all financial documents for 15 years. But again, you can set that limit to whatever you want. So now that that's held for finance, boom. The other thing we can do is we can say, you know what, I work with more than just office documents. I've got, PDFs too of tax incomes, of tax returns. So what if I wanted to do, I could open up that tax return right here. And I don't have a PDF reader on my machine right now. But you'll see I got a tax document. I could right click on that document and then I can go to my options and I can say apply a label. When I do that, now I get those same drop downs by department, by data retention, you name it. So I can say here, you know what, finance again, click apply, and then boom. So now you'll see that I've got 2 documents that have that financial label on them. But let's say I wanted to, relabel all 3 documents something else. I could highlight all of them. I could right click, apply label. And you'll see here, I can say, you know what, really all of this, those 3 documents just need to be held for 15 years or need to go under the HR department or the legal department. And then you can click apply and you'll see that that happened and then boom. And if we open up these documents again, so we'll open up that Word doc, you'll see that that label was changed. And if we open up the tax document, you'll see that that label was changed from finance to 15 years. So the next one we have is a safety memo. So we can open up a safety memo, and this right here has no retention on it. But I know I keep all of my safety memos in a certain spot. That spot has that 15-year retention policy on it. So any documents I throw into that spot will automatically get that 15-year retention policy. So let's make sure I go to the right place. Here we go, it's my memos. So here I can take my document that you'll see does not have a label on it. And then I can take it, I can toss it in here. Once it uploads, I can open up that document. And you will see There it is. The 10-year. Oh, I set the 10-year on the back end. So it's set on the back end. So again, you can say these document libraries automatically get these retention labels. And then if I were to do that, any additional documents that I open up in here, so let's say I started a new PowerPoint. Give it some data, and you should see here in a second, once it does its first save, boom. This is also given that same 10-year retention because it's based on the location of the document and not something that the end user did themselves. So those are a few different ways you can set retention. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So again, you can do it location based. You can do it by highlighting a bunch of documents, right-clicking on them, and then going to apply sensitivity labels. And then say, well, this is all part of legal now, hit apply, and boom, you just labeled 4 documents as legal, and we hold on to legal for X number of years. Or you can open up each individual document and then apply that label here. So not so bad. So that right there is kind of the end of the end user's version of this. So from an end user standpoint, that's what they're going to see on a day-to-day basis. So now let's jump into the IT aspect of it. And then for the IT department, let's jump into Portal. Actually, let's go to Purview. And what we did here was we set up a solution. We did information protection, sensitivity labels. And you'll notice that as an end user, I only had a select few labels here as the end user. Back-end IT, you guys can have a whole lot more and you can break them up by department. So not every end user will see all of the labels or the same labels. They'll see labels based on their job function, you could say. But here you'll see down here is those retention labels, those departmental labels, those sensitive information labels are all down here. So build out your data classification labels. Then what you do is you go from data classification, you jump into data lifecycle management, and then you build out a retention policy. So this is like the blanket policy, what goes across everything. So we're just saying everything will be held for a minimum of 2 years. The end users can still delete it, but on the back end, you'll always be able to find it using e-discovery because of that retention policy. Then you build out retention labels within the retention policy, within data lifecycle management, because you want to then tie these retention labels to those data classification labels. You can still use the retention labels as you see fit behind the scenes, but from an end user standpoint, we tie the retention label to data classification label. So this is where you can say, I've got, I want to make a retention label for finance. I'm going to hold on to all my financial data for 8 years or 10 years. I'm going to make a retention label for, let's see here, leases. And then, the lease is 15 years. So I'm going to hold on to that for 15 years or 50 years. But again, you'd build your retention labels, you'd build your data classification labels, and then you would tie those two together. So whenever the data classification label is applied, the retention label is also applied that way. And that, in a nutshell, is kind of how it's set up on the back end using those two pieces of technology. And then you just do label policies for auto label applying, and then you say anywhere you see that retention label, automatically put that classification label on there because you're looking for the GUID. In a nutshell, that's really it from data classification and the retention policies around it. The other thing that you might want to look at, actually, let's jump back into Purview here. And again, this is for the IT guys, or the IT department. So if you're an end user and you're like, what is he doing? That's why. So now that we're in here, let's click on e-discovery. We'll do a content search, because content searches are like quick and dirty, go find something. Ooh, got a bug. Oh, I gotta grant myself permissions to it. Crud. I should still be able to build a case though. Let's try. Boom. Test 1 and create. Load, load, load. Create a search. Find 10-year. Create. Here we go. So let's delete that. We'll add a condition, and we want to find retention labels, contains, any of these, and then we would go back and we would pull our 10-year retention, like you'd copy and paste the name of the label in there. So that would pop up there. And then also we could go sensitivity, lag there for a minute, and then contains, and then there's our 10-year sensitivity label as well. So we could throw that in there. So retention label, boom, and or sensitivity label, boom. And you can find stuff that way. So a way to do e-discovery or content search is to go find that data. Now at the same time, the other thing you may want to look at here is when you go into these retention labels, and let's say we edit one of these. So 10 years here, disposal review. So we started a disposal review here, and if you edit the stages then, it says, hey, that data, once it hits 10 years, if it's deleted, it's going to go into a disposal review, which gives it pretty much 90 more days until it deletes itself automatically, like a recycling bin. But at the same time, a user, usually somebody who's part of the department who knows that data, will get an email saying, hey, go review this information, and they'll look at it through kind of like that content search window to say like good, bad, delete, put back into circulation, things of that nature. So that's how those review stages work as well. I think that's it from a demo standpoint as relates to like really the end user experience and then some of the things on the back end. But during the project, we're going to build all this stuff out with you guys and then provide you like knowledge transfer on, how we built it, how you would add more retention labels and sensitivity labels, kind of like what are the day-to-day maintenance things you could think of. So we will we'll jump in and do some more later. Thanks, everybody. Bye.